Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. And today I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Andrew Green at Western Carolina. Welcome, Coach.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I was just telling you, I've got a soft spot for Western Carolina since my wife's cousin played there. But well, your first year there, I think, and uh, in your first stint, right? So you're on stint number two. So you got some good insights for us here, I bet.
Yeah. I'm excited. So I got to start coaching here right out of college as a volunteer. Left, got into the full-time side of things, and then was able to come back here this year. And I love this place. It's awesome.
Oh, good to hear. Well, we're talking here kind of end of May that everybody's gone for the summer. You're in that quiet but probably busy period of getting everything locked and loaded. And I know with all the still floating roster change limitation, who knows what's going on right now. What's it like for you guys in terms of, I mean, I'm assuming you're set for the fall, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it with the transfer portal just closing, things like that. We've had a couple transfers on campus. We're not a big transfer portal recruiting. We kind of use it as a way to fill needs at the end of the spring. Like if we realize like, hey, we're short in this spot or things like that. Like that's kind of how we use it. But yeah, general recruiting, we're done for the fall. For us, it's mainly getting as much of the 26 class done as we can. We've got four players committed right now and looking to wrap that class up, and then in the D1 world, as crazy as it is, June 15th rolls around and you're recruiting juniors to start that process. So yeah, it's definitely a slower time, but like it's recruiting never stops, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when do you think you'll say, okay, we're for the most part done with 26s, but at the same time, how with all this craziness of the roster limits and transfer portal stuff, how do you go about deciding what the size of that class
Yeah.
target is? You know, obviously, like you said, you're backfilling maybe with transfer portal at the very end of the spring because some things changed, but how do you go about that decision-making process?
Yeah, this one's definitely been a weird process, so to say, with this whole impending lawsuit. Does roster limits happen? Does it not? I think for us, we've always wanted to be no bigger than 32, and that's with having 3 to 4 goalkeepers. So we never really want to be a roster larger than that because we value the experience of each player. I think once you start to go in that direction, you're starting to have 10 to 12 players sitting out at training when you're playing 11s, which is wild. Um, but yeah, I think for us, like, we kind of just have gone business as usual with what we're doing. Our 26 class will try and wrap up by the end of the summer, mid fall. We've known for a while it's going to be a smaller class for us because we're graduating 8 players. And as you kind of see in recruiting, the natural flow of if you graduate 8, you try and replace with 8 type of thing. Um, so I think for us, like we're never a team or a program that kind of says like, I want to be done by June 1st with the 26s so we can focus all that. Like I feel like once you do that, so many good players come along in the process, especially in the last 2 years where you've seen, with the impending roster limits, oh, I'm opening up my recruitment, my roster spot has been taken away. And at that point, you don't want to close doors on things. So, for us, it's definitely a weird timeline for things, but I think for us, we're always recruiting. We're always looking for players that can make our program better, and we don't want to turn away players that can do that. So yeah, that's kind of a long-winded answer, but I think for us, like with everything that's going on and all that, like we're just going to continue to do what we're doing and try and find players that just keep pushing us forward and hopefully compete in this for the SoCon for a while.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I mean, you guys had a great season this past fall, so I think it must be working, right? So, well, with all that being said, where is it that you guys like to spend a majority of your time focused on in terms of what tournaments, leagues, et cetera? Where are you going to find players?
Yeah, so between us, we've kind of had a very unique approach to it. Um, with just two of us being full time on staff and having a volunteer, and then we're adding a graduate assistant this year. Um, it's kind of figuring out where we can best use our resources. So between ECNL, GA, RL, the two of us have spent some time in Canada going up to their showcases. Um, Jeff Cup. Um, we went to the NCFC showcase this year. We try and hit as many regional events as we can. Where we're at in Cullowhee, there's not an ECNL club very close to us. You're talking a 2, 3 hour drive to go watch games. So for us, wherever we can go spend our resources, great. For me, I like going out and working camps, whether it's other schools or third parties, just because it gives us another avenue to go find players. I've always had the no stone unturned mentality. Like I want to be where we can because I feel like there's always good players at different places. There's really no perfect scenario for it because some of the best players that I've ever recruited weren't ECNL, weren't GA, were at a very small tournament and you name it. So, or going to watch a random club game. So I think for us, like obviously you want to hit the ECNL, the GAs where you're going to think the top end players are going to be, but um, for us, we just want to go where we can find the best players.
Well, having said all that, whether it's camps or a tournament, like what makes up that hierarchy of things you're looking for in a player, both on the field and off?
Yeah, I think for us in we always joke about our playing style and things like that, but we're a very blue collar team. So work rate is a very big thing that look for. Um, on the ball, off the ball, are you pressing well? Are you moving off the ball well? Um, and then obviously like most coaches, we're looking for the little things off the field. Like when you come off the field, are you sitting there pouting? Are you, engaged in the coaching moments? Are you engaged in the game? I think one of the things that I always talk about with our team is what's made our team so special is that as our players come off the field and we make subs, they're not sitting down, relaxing, not paying attention. They're standing up, cheering on their team. So that's something that we've kind of looked for. Obviously, the tactical, the technical, those aspects of players are what we look for. But I think, we look for those little minor details. And then as they come on campus for visits, it's not us that are kind of grilling them. It's our team that's grilling them. And how do they fit into our group? So, yeah, I think just like most programs, that's what we look for the best soccer players that fit our system. But I think the little things of, how are you working off the ball and how are you when you come off the field are two very big things that we look for.
Okay. Well, one thing that I think kids always ask me because I do the college recruiting for our club here down in Florida as well, but the idea of official visits, right? And having, the school pay for you to come out and how many kids are coming in on official visits out of a recruiting class for you guys? Is it common, not common? Is it after they've signed? Like what does that look like for you guys specifically?
Yeah, it's not super common, let's put it that way. It's maybe less than five, I would say, because you're looking at, especially at the mid-major level, when you look at trying to use your resources wisely. I think for us, that's why we value our camp so much because we get players. We like to do visits the day before, come visit the day before, and we'll get you in for camp, and you can work with us. You can be with our team. But yeah, we do a couple official visits here and there. It really depends on, the year of what our budgets look like and, I guess how the recruiting battle is looking, how bad do we need this player? What schools are we fighting type of thing. Obviously as a mid-major, if you're wanting to get into the conversation with kids who are going to be in the P4, you're gonna have to show a little bit more love than what you would normally do. Um, but I think for us, we kind of I think we're very fortunate too in the way that where we're set up and the way that we recruit, that most kids that we recruit are anywhere from 5 to 7 hours away. So it's more of a day trip than anything. Um, especially as we look in North Carolina, I mean, we can get from where we are to Raleigh in 5 hours, and cover all that space in between. And as you start to look at bigger cities, Atlanta's 3 hours away, Charlotte's 3 hours away, Knoxville, Tennessee's 2 hours away, and as you start to go things like that. So it's not as common. I wouldn't say that every big time recruit that we bring in is on an official visit. I would say in a normal cycle, you're looking at anywhere less than five. So yeah, I think obviously that differs at school to school and what your budgets look like and how you're allowed to bring in players. And I think if we were in Atlanta, it might be a different story where every single airport, every single flight
Yeah,
flies.
no.
Uh, so yeah,
No, I completely agree, and I think that's what it's a big misconception, around is how easily and widely available they are. And of course, it does make a difference whether you're when you're located where you guys are versus, Atlanta or even Charlotte, which is just, that much easier. So, well, let's talk a little bit more about the school. Obviously, we mentioned the location, but it was a special enough place for you to come back to. Kind of, what are some things about the school that you enjoy the most? Maybe some things we wouldn't even know by going through the website.
yeah, I think for me, one of the biggest things that I talk about Western is if you're an outdoors person, you're absolutely going to love this. Situated right in the mountains, a big enough but not small campus that's 14,000, a little less than 13,000 on campus. Um, but I think one of the things that I always talk about is I'm a big small town person. I've never really grown up in a city before. So I love the community that's around us. Everybody knows everybody, which is good and bad at times. But I think when you have that mentality, you have a community that looks out for you. Um, I think when I came back here, I think our program was just poised to compete at a high level in the SoCon, which really made it really enticing to come back, obviously. But I think when you look at the school, there's so many different programs and so many different things for a school of only 13,000 students that, um, you don't get, I always tell recruits, you get the big feeling of this school, but as you walk around, it doesn't really feel that big. You get football Saturdays, you get basketball games, you get the things that you would get at schools. But it doesn't feel like when I go into a classroom, I'm one of 150 people. So I think for us, and then obviously like I said, the outdoors, if you're someone who likes hiking, mountain biking, being on lakes, all that stuff is within 30 minutes of our campus, which um, I like being outside and I like being outdoors, and that's one big thing that really entices people.
Yeah, for sure. Well, one of the hardest things about, becoming a college athlete is balancing the demands of the sport and school, especially at a high academic level and a Division I soccer level, right? So what support systems are there in place at the school to help make sure that your players are successful on both sides of that?
Yeah, so we have our academic success team who really works with our group. We have an advisor who works specifically with our team who handles scheduling, handles grade reports. I think our athletes meet with her once every 2 or 3 weeks to go over current grades. Some of our at-risk players meet with her even more. Us as coaches, we get quarterly reports. So 4 times a semester, we're getting updates on you. But as those things start to evolve and as you start to get more into your career your academic career, they help with resume writing, help with finding internships, help with mock interviews, help with things like that. So there is a huge department. Our academic success team does a great job with that. And they kind of work with us on the road. They work with us at home. They work with our scheduling. Since we have We have girls who do some of the toughest degrees on campus. We have girls who are in nursing. We have girls who are in pre-med. We have engineers. So there's a lot that goes into that, obviously, and those are pretty demanding um, course loads. So those folks in our academic success team make sure that they help us with scheduling training sessions. So we give them what we want to do with our training sessions. They help them schedule their classes. When we're on the road, they're always available for tutoring, all that stuff like that. We're pretty fortunate with our travel that um, unless we choose to go out of region. We have the ACC, SEC, lower end of the Big Ten near us, Sun Belt. So for all of us travel wise, is it's we're pretty fortunate that we're not getting into an airport Wednesday and getting back Monday at 4 a.m. type of thing. So there is a lot that kind of helps you academically, especially when you don't have that type of travel load on it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's fast forward to the fall. Say we're in the heart of that conference season. Walk me through what does a typical week look like for a player, meals, practices, games, classes, the whole nine.
Yeah, so this past fall, we're pretty so in the SoCon we play Thursday, Sunday. So Mondays is always our day off. So we will they'll kind of do their recovery with our athletic trainer. We tell our girls that if you have, labs and classes that need to be a little longer, schedule them on Mondays, because that's always our day off no matter what. Tuesday for us is normally an activation lift in the morning. So our girls will lift from 7 to 8 a.m. Very light, very more maintenance mode in season type of thing. They will have their classes from 8:30 till we give them 8:30 to 3 o'clock to figure out classes. So whatever figures out in your schedule during that. Usually 4 p.m. is our training time. We'll usually go from 4 to 5:30 or 4 to 6, depending on what we need to do. There's really not too many times where we're ever going over 2 hours because that's just wild in the season, especially with loads. Um, Wednesday is always a pregame session. So for us, or it's a travel day. And for us, like I said, we're pretty fortunate with our travel that most of our travel, unless we choose to go out of region, we can get a very good game within 5 hours of campus. So we're normally on a bus, either going to a hotel or doing a pregame session at home, usually doing our pregame scout. Thursday is normally a game day, so home or away. And then Friday, if we're back home normally, unless we're traveling, like I said, we do a recovery lift with our strength coach. So he will put all the players that didn't play through a little bit more of a rigorous one, but our players who got high minutes or getting minutes are kind of doing recovery stuff with him. And same with our training. We'll do something very light with our high minute players, and then our players who didn't get tons of minutes, we will go through a training session just to keep their fitness up. Saturday again is another pregame session, very light, set pieces, tactics, all that good stuff, and then Sunday's a game. So, and that kind of goes on from mid-August through you're hoping through mid-November. So, yeah, for us, it's the last couple of years we've been fortunate. It's been through mid-November. So, yeah, that's kind of normally how it goes. It's a grind. If you love it, you love every second of it. If you're kind of bought in, if you're a little not bought in, it can get old really quick, is what I always tell
Yeah,
recruits.
very true. Um, well, let's talk about the team. Obviously, you're uh, the assistant coach. Kind of talks who else fills out that roster of coaching staff and other people who help out with the team.
Yeah, so right now, obviously, our head coach, Chad, and then myself, we have a volunteer assistant, Michael, who works with our goalkeepers. Um, we are adding a graduate assistant this year. That's going to be something new, so we're trying to figure out that role right now. We have a student manager who oversees a lot of the operation sides of things, assists with our travel, assists with meals, helps game day setups, things like that. We have a full-time athletic trainer who works with us year round, strength coach, um, our academic advisor, Rihanna. She's great. That's basically the biggest people that you'll see. We have a few other support staff that are around every while in our admin, but yeah, as a coaching staff, I think for me as the assistant coach, a lot of my plate is the recruiting side of things and the game day preparations and the training side of things. That's why I've always loved being an assistant coach so far because I think it kind of combines all the stuff that I really like when coaching. And then we all kind of play our part in recruiting, like I said, Chad and I, and then Michael, our volunteer, goes recruiting at times with us, and um, I think we all kind of bounce off each other, and we kind of work on different things. So it's not really just, hey, Andrew, you're responsible for this. It's kind of like, hey, you're in charge, but we're all going to work together type of thing.
Okay. I like that. Um, well, how would you describe kind of the team style of play that you're looking to play there and how you're going about that?
Yeah, I always talk about our team being a very blue collar, hardworking team. When we have the ball, we want to be in possession, we want to keep it. But I always tell recruits, we're not vintage Barcelona where we're going to knock the ball 95 times before we go to goal type of thing. We talk a lot about our team is very athletic and we're very good in transition. So when we don't have the ball, can we get a good defensive shape behind us? Can we either in the moment are we pressing? Are we playing a little deeper and then catching teams in transition? So I think for us, and when I talk about transition, it's not about win it, play it long, someone run onto it. I think for us, it's can we win it, play three, four passes, get them behind, and look to score. This last year we scored a lot of goals and we also didn't concede a lot of, I think we scored 52 goals and conceded 10. So for us, we talk about having a good defensive shape, but then as we win it and as teams started to figure us out a little bit and sitting back, how can we get our shape as big as possible and start to attack teams through different spaces? Um, so for us, like I said, we value both sides of the ball, attacking and defending. I think for most players, it's a lot more fun to win games to score 3, 4 goals than it is to win 1-0. So we do value that quite a bit, and we value the attacking side of soccer. I think it's a lot more fun to play that way. But for us, this year 13 shutouts, we value having or not giving up a lot of goals. Um, so I think for us, it's kind of a mixture of possession, but with the intent to just go forward and score goals. It's how can we get the ball forward? How can we play through our wingers? How can we play through our midfield and get balls in behind and look to score?
All right. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, you've given us a bunch of info. Really appreciate it. Going to leave you with one last question. And that is if you had one piece of advice for any girl going through the recruiting process right now, what would that be?
Yeah, I think it's run your own race. Don't get caught up in club teammates committing and doing this on different timelines. Everybody has their own timeline. Don't get caught up in the name and the school. Find your fit. I know we all love to look at the different brands and different schools and different things like that. But what is really your fit? Are you really someone who wants to be at a 50,000 person school where you kind of get lost in the shuffle, or are you somewhere where you want to be a little smaller? Um, that's the biggest thing that I've always told recruits is, this is your recruiting process. It's not someone else's. Don't get caught up in the teammates that are committing early or the teammates that are committing around you and I need to rush and do this. I think that's why we end up with, 13 to 1400 names in a transfer portal at time because we rush so many times and then you're going over this process again that you didn't enjoy. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I can kind of tell recruits is, don't get caught up in what other people are doing or the name of the school. Run your own race, whether it's Division 1, Division 2, Division 3 NAIA. I've coached at just about every level at this point. Every level has their pluses and minuses, but it's all about what fits you and what you can thrive in soccer wise and academically. So
Yep, absolutely. Well, Coach, really appreciate it. Appreciate the time. Wish you the best of luck. Hopefully, you'll be hanging that SoCon banner this fall, eh?
I hope so. Yeah, that'd be great. Appreciate it.